Arkajyoti, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
kindly share your screen and go
Yes,
to
yes.
full screen mode. Yeah, that's your screen. Yeah.
Okay. Let me first thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. The title of my talk is Scattering Amplitudes from Generalized Recursion, which is based on these two works. These works are done in collaboration with Saurabh Vallabh, who is a postdoc at IISER Bhopal. Okay, so let me begin with the motivation for the on-cell recursion method. The basic idea of recursion relation is to obtain higher point amplitudes in terms of lower point amplitudes. For massless particle amplitudes, the BCFW which relations is one of the most powerful tools in which a pair of massless external momenta gets complexified. In the Spinor-Helicity formalism, the BCFW recursion method makes the computation of complicated amplitudes simple by requiring only 3-point on-cell amplitudes. This is advantageous over the usual Feynman diagram techniques, which is not recursive, and unitarity method, which requires manifestly off-cell 3-point amplitudes. Although the Spinor-Helicity formalism for massive particles has been known for decades, but those variables are not the most convenient for computation of S matrix, as they were not little group covariant. Because why we need this covariance? Because the S matrix itself are covariant under the little group. So it is desirable to work with variables which are themselves covariant under the little group transformations. So it was the work of Arkani Huang and Huang in 2017 who introduced little group covariant Spinor-Helicity formalism for massive particles. In certain sense, their formalism unifies the kinematic space of massive and massless particle into Spinor-Helicity basis. Also, this formalism allows one to take the massless limit of a massive amplitude in a systematic manner. So what do you want to do with it? So in light of this discovery, it is natural to ask how democratic is the on-cell recursion of complexifying arbitrary external momenta. That is it possible to complexify massive external states leading to a consistent recursion relation while keeping the little group covariance intact? In our first paper, we introduced a shift which involves one massive and one massless Spinor-Helicity variables. An important result of this work is that we classify all such allowed for the Higgs-Riang theory that I will describe. In a follow-up work, we used these shifts to compute two classes of amplitudes involving massive vector boson in the Higgs-Riang theory. These amplitudes are the massive analog of MHV and NMHV amplitude. Okay, so let me briefly review what is the Spinor-Helicity formalism. For massless particle, the momentum for vector written in this SL2C representation becomes a 2x2 matrix, and because of the on-cell condition, the determinant is 0, which makes this 2x2 matrix rank 1, which implies that this matrix can be written as a product of two component, two spinor variables. So basically, they are coil type of spinors. So we call these spinors as massless Spinor-Helicity variables, and in light of this relation, the little group scaling for massless particles looks like this. It's just a scaling. Where T is some non-zero complex number. So the massless amplitude often written in terms of some spinor object, which is either written either the product of this lambda variable or lambda tilde variable. The angle brackets denotes the contraction of two lambda variables, and the square brackets denotes the contraction of two lambda tilde variables. So under this little group transformation, the amplitude, massless amplitude, scales like this guy, where I have considered one massless particle with helicity H, and I am considering little group scaling of the Spinor-Helicity variables associated to that massless particle. So it scales like T to the power minus 2H. Okay. Now, let me tell you about the spin-Helicity formalism for the massive particles. So for massive particles, we just express the momentum matrix as a sum of two component product of two component spin-Helicity variables. So there is an extra index I here, which will turn out to be the SU2 little group index for the massive particles. And the little group transformation for these variables looks like this, where this W is in the SU2 matrices. Similarly, for massive part amplitudes, we will define some Lorentz invariant objects, but these objects are covariant under little group because they manifestly carry these IJ indices. Okay. So now let me go to the what is called generalized recursion. To do this, let us so the amplitude. The amplitude is a function of external momenta, and we pick any two momenta, which one of them are massive and one of them are massless. So we pick two momenta and complexify them in this fashion. So here we did this deformation while keeping all the momentas on cell always, and the plus minus comes from the fact that we want to keep the overall momentum conservation intact. So on cell condition imposes further these following relations. With this complexifying, one can extract the physical amplitude from the complex deformed amplitude from a simple contour argument, and it takes the following form. So the important point is that the physical amplitude is now a product of on cell on cell lower point amplitude AL and AR. Here I have two terms basically because of the fact that there may be both massive and massless channel present in the scattering diagrams. So in writing this factorized form, we have assumed that so diagrammatically factorization means is that we have a endpoint amplitude, and this factorization looks like this, where the two deformed legs are attached to two different sub amplitudes. Okay, so with this factorization, this on-cell recursion method works for amplitude that are forced to exist by consistent factorization given the three particle amplitude. So this excludes theories with contact terms because the contact terms cannot be factorized in this fashion. So one of the example is the famous lambda 5 theory. So the momentum shift introduced here can be realized in terms of the massive spin-Helicity variable in this fashion. Where one important remark is that these deformations are now covariant under the little group as the massive spin-Helicity variable carries explicit SU2 index. Okay, so we denote such shift where this as IJ plus. So we have picked one of the massless particle to be J, and suppose and the helicity of that particle is mentioned like this plus helicity, and the bold-faced I means the ith particle is massive, and we are deforming the lambda tilde variable in such fashion. So so this is one of the example of massive massless shift of the type M plus. So similarly, there are three other classes of massive massless shift, which is like this. Okay. So okay, let me briefly talk about the larger behavior of the amplitude. So one of the key ingredient for the on-cell recursion to work is that the amplitude must decay at large Z. But this assumption is far from obvious and not even true for any general theory. Naively, individual Feynman diagrams behave like this, where each vertices, for gauge theory, each vertices will scales with Z, and for gravity, it will be Z square. And all the propagators in between them will scales like 1 over Z. So individual Feynman diagram always diverge for both gauge theory and gravity. But surprisingly, at least for some helicity configuration of the deformed external particles, the amplitude does vanish at large jet. BCFW explicitly shows for gauge theory shows that the helicity configuration of the deformed particles for these helicity configurations, the amplitude behaves as 1/z at large jet, but the helicity configuration for plus minus, it scales at z cube. So in our earlier work, we showed that the generalized recursion is consistent for Higgs-Yang-Mills theory, for which amplitude does decay at large jet. And as a consequence, we also showed that there are, out of 4 type of massive masses, possible massive masses shift, only these 2 types of shifts lead to consistent generalized recursion. So is there any question at this point? Okay, so now let me move on. So what is this new recursion is good for? So the natural question is that how powerful and efficient this massive massless shift over 2 other possible 2 line shifts, namely both massless or both massive deformations. And another question is that is it possible to compute certain class of amplitude in a more optimal way using this generalized recursion relation than the famous BCFW recursion? So we probe into these 2 questions by studying 2 classes of 3-level color-ordered n-particle amplitude by using generalized recursion. So two massive. The first class is that we consider 2 massive vector bosons and arbitrary number of identical gluons. So this massive amplitude is the closest analog of MHV amplitude. And the second class is that we consider a pair of massive vector boson, one minus helicity gluon adjacent to one of the massive vector boson, and all the rest of the gluons are positive helicity. So this massive amplitude is the analog of what we call NMHV amplitude for in the case of pure gluon amplitudes. Okay, so let me first describe the amplitude with all identical gluons. So we consider the shift on particle 1 and 2 like this, and all the possible channels for this scattering amplitude are shown in here. There are 4 diagrams. The first and third diagram vanishes because single massive vector boson, like here and here, massive vector boson cannot decay into identical gluons. And the second diagram vanishes as a pure gluon amplitude, either have one single negative helicity or all positive helicity gluon attached to it. So both of them are 0. So only this last diagram remains. So we find the amplitude using the principle of induction and generalized recursion to be like this, but this one n is a spinor product involving the massive spinor helicity variables of the particle 1 and 2, which is defined to be like this. So it is defined as spinor product, a symmetric product of the this angle. So to see whether this amplitude produce MHV amplitude in the massless limit, we take the following. We consider the following. So as a general rule of thumb, the massive spinor behaves in the massless limit as follows. The angle massive spinor in this massless limit goes to massless particle with helicity negative helicity particle, and for the square bracket, for the square variable, it corresponds to plus helicity massless particle in the massless limit. So with this, you can see that only angle bracket involving 2 massive spinor helicity variables are appearing. So in the limit, there is only one non-vanishing configuration, which is exactly produce the MHV.
You have 2 minutes left.
Okay. The other possible amplitude is gluon with a flipped helicity gluon. So we consider this 1-2 shift again, as we consider only minimal coupling, the XN particle can be either massive vector boson or gluon. But a massive vector boson cannot be possible because it cannot decay into two massless gluon, as we see. So earlier, due to 2-1 shift, the first diagram get non-zero configuration only for this helicity configuration. Okay. So again, we use generalized recursion, and the amplitude can be computed from scratch. The answer is look like something like this. And if you take the massless limit, there will be 3 possible massless components in this limit. So one of them, so here one and nth particle are massive. So we take minus plus combination first. It will and plus minus combination. So for both opposite helicity configuration in the massless limit, they reduce to MHV type of amplitude. But if you take negative helicity configuration for the massive particle in the massless limit, it will produce the NMHV amplitude. So I just want to mention that why the generalized recursion is advantageous over the BCFW. So if you see this flipped helicity configuration, if you use BCFW type shift, like I did on 2-3, there will be 2 possible channels. But the second diagram in this context always involve the amplitude with configuration which we intended to compute, like this sub amplitude involves a gluon with negative helicity itself, and all the other particles are positive helicity. But this is the exact configuration that we are trying to compute. But in the case of generalized recursion, what happens that all the sub amplitude involved in this scattering channels are already known. So it is the sub amplitude are either of the type 2 massive vector boson with all plus helicity gluon or the pure gluon amplitude. So in using generalized recursion relation, one can compute this amplitude from scratch. But if you use the BCFW, you need some extra data. I mean, some assumption. Then you can do inductively prove that assumption if you do that BCFW. Okay, I just take one more minute. So although we have considered a specific helicity configuration for external gluons, it is possible to compute scattering amplitude involving gluons with arbitrary helicity using generalized or BCFW shift in combination with the amplitude we have considered here. However, in order to compute amplitude with more than 2 massive particles using generalized recursion, one would require knowledge of a wider class of amplitude. So we haven't done this, but we hope to address this problem in the near future. And another obvious step would be, it would be interesting to explore the usage of this new recursion in computing various loop amplitudes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Arkad Jyoti, for your nice presentation. So I would like to see if there are questions, comments on this. If you want to ask a question, you can please raise your hand or something so that we can see. Okay, that is all right. Okay, if there are no questions, comments, let us thank Arkad Jyoti again. Sukrut Mondkar,
Yeah.
can I see you or see your screen? Can you share your screen?
Yeah.
Share your face or something? Yeah, I can see you and your screen also. No, this is not yours. Yeah, go to your first page.
Sorry, the last.
Yeah. That's okay.
You can see the hand tool also, right? The hand.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.